You are now listening to Good, Bad, or Bullshit.
Hello and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast. Once again, we are here to review the random topics that matter with random opinions that don't. I am one of your three congenial hosts. Host number one. We rank the hosts, and I'm number one. It's a mutual thing. Therefore, I get to intro the show. My name is Crofton Steers. Welcome, listeners. Thank you for joining us. I would like to welcome my two co-hosts right away. I'm going to start with Michael Hodgins. Welcome, Michael.
Good day, gentlemen. I say good day to you both.
I say good day to you, Bo Schwartz.
Good day to you, sir. I say good day.
That's right. So the band is back together. It seems like it's been a whole week since we last did this, and I am for one. I'm ready to go. I'm raring to tear apart a topic. I feel like last week's Good and Evil episode was pretty solid. It was interesting.
It was interesting, and aside from our preamble conversation, I thought was also interesting, though it was half the length of the show. But it was interesting. I enjoyed it as well.
It was only 11 minutes. That's not too bad.
Sort of like last week's GBB was like a double header, except there was no verdict at the end of the first one.
Yeah, and both games went to overtime. But yeah, no, I thought it allowed us to do sort of like take stock at the state of our own show. You know how we use these categories, and we were talking about like being informed opinions versus uninformed opinions and the value of each plus good and evil and that. So I tell you, this is like an ad for last week's show, but if you skipped it, you might want to go back and listen.
I feel like our show title is kind of an inside joke, or it's maybe somewhat anachronistic, because we don't just say something is good, bad, or bullshit. We actually talk about it and then do this thing at the end. So I think the most important thing listeners need to take away is what we say about the things, not the verdicts, in my opinion.
It's true, but it's also like you say all those things and you hash it all out, but still you gotta like land somewhere, and that's sometimes the difficult part.
It does feel funny though. I have people that'll be like, "Oh, you guys just did circumcision, eh? Is that good, bad, or bullshit?" And I'm like, "Well, you gotta listen." And then they'll be like, "All right," and they hit play and they're like, "45 minutes." Screw that. Just tell me if it's good, bad, or bullshit.
Well, then you got to say, like, you don't just sit there listening and concentrating on the radio show. You can do other things while you listen. It's talk radio. It's new and fantastic.
Also, did you guys hear there was this thing? Oh, I can't remember where it came from, and I think maybe it was a bit of a joke, but I thought maybe it might have been Microsoft that did a study where it was like humans now officially have the attention span of a goldfish. Did you hear this headline going around?
I believe it.
What? Sorry, I didn't catch that. There was just a window popped up. I got a notification.
Is this for real, or are you actually proving them correct? I can't tell if it's ironic.
He's proving them correct.
Sorry, what are we talking about? I feel frustrated that you're keeping me out of the loop.
You're the case in point. As you were last week for the ignorant opinions, you are this week for the person with the short attention span.
Oh, I'm just pulling your leg, man. I know we're talking about short goldfish.
He's half pulling your leg because we do another show. Subscribe to the ! Podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. And in that show, we talk about video games. And whenever a video game requires like a modicum of attention over it doesn't just saturate you with ADD stuff. You have to kind of read some things and get into it. Bo's like, "Oh, I played it for 5 minutes and then I quit. I played him for 5 minutes and then I quit."
It's true. I do that a lot.
Well, then give him credit for doing this show because, it is a conversation that often is 45 minutes or whatever. And I'd say that's the thing about it. Like, yeah, if you want like super quick stuff, like look at BuzzFeed or any other clickbait crap on the internet to tell you something. But it's like, it's a conversation. Conversation shouldn't be rushed, right? You should get to make your points and talk about it.
It's notifications. As soon as I feel my phone buzzing and it's Twitter or Twitch or my email or a phone call or a text, I feel like I drop everything in my brain, whatever I was thinking about, to think about my notifications. So that can't be
Oh.
good.
Related to this somewhat, I saw this quote the other day. I can't remember the name. I'll look it up because I feel like it describes your show well. I think it was a Russian. He was a Russian economist. I think economist, but it doesn't make much sense. I know this is a lot of preamble for the quote.
With a lot of
What-
like
what
vacuous
that you don't know.
information. He's like, you might be a Russian, I don't know, and he's a.
It doesn't really matter.
He's
What
a
he
Russian
said-
economist.
Okay, listen. What he said was, here's his quote: "Conversation is the foundation for higher thought." And I was like, oh, well, yeah. Good, bad bullshit, man.
That sounds like a ringing
Foundation.
endorsement of our show.
It's
if I've ever heard
foundational
one,
for your higher thought needs.
we should. What's this gentleman's name?
It's like Yevgeny. I had not heard of him
Okay,
before. But
Yevgeny, I have not heard of. If you listen to the show, we'd love to do like
He's
a little ad
probably-
with you or something like that. Get
he's
your
probably
endorsement of the show.
dead, though.
Oh,
Usually people that are quoted are not like some dude on your Twitter. No
unless
one
they're
quotes that.
douchebags. I really hate people that are living that get quoted all the time. I don't know.
That's what Twitter is.
You don't want to
guys
hear
are
like
on that
Clive
guy.
Owen or George
It's
Clooney
true, that
deliver
is what
some
Twitter-
quote like.
Yeah, you always see these things on Facebook where it's like, oh, Julia Roberts changed my life with this speech she gave. I'm like, Julia Roberts? I'm like, but she's an actor. There's all these people that
Oh
have
yeah,
done
like
like
Robert
amazing
Downey
things.
Jr. I saw one from him. It's like, never worry about things. That's just wishing for it to happen or something like that. I'm like, that's not a quote. And worrying is a legitimate thing that you do in certain cases. It's not deep in any way, shape, or form.
And you're a superficial ex-druggy actor. Who cares what you have to say?
All right. Anyways, I think we need to get into a topic because
Let-
we sound revved up.
Yeah, let's do it.
It'd be interesting to one day do this show backwards. Like, come out with our verdicts on a topic right off. All of us know what they are, and then we have to argue our verdicts for the next, whatever amount of time to see how that works.
Like,
'Cause
like Bizarro.
yeah, well, if people want the answer right off, they're like, "Oh, I need to know. Is Crofton think it's good, bad, or bullshit? Oh, I gotta know." And then I tell them right off. Then they can either turn it off or they can listen to why. Be interesting. See what Bo's mom thinks.
Yeah.
All right, for consideration.
All right.
Let's put that one. Let's put a pin in that one, as they say.
It's gonna just go by the wayside, like that time I suggested using ethanol fuel in the random topic. Like diesel is better.
I think we should go green, Mike. I don't
You can't mess with arcane technology. You can't be green.
True.
The topic today is casual sex.
I like how you read that like Sean Connery.
Casual sex.
Do it again.
No, that's it. That's
Yeah.
my Sean Connery.
Casual sex, I say.
I am the last one. That's from that dragon movie. he was in.
I was so excited when that movie came out because it was like the first fantasy movie I ever saw in theaters.
It was kind of good, I think.
But it was all right.
So,
So
casual sex.
I'm thinking about Sean Connery over here, and we're supposed to be thinking about
he's a good
casual
segue.
sex.
He's probably had lots of casual sex. He has certainly played the pop culture character who is essentially known for casual sex, aside from spying James Bond.
James
That
Bond.
guy has lots of casual sex.
Yep, he does. Okay, here's a question. What is wrong with casual sex? What's the... Why is it...
Why is it called casual sex instead of just
Or what-
sex? Because
yeah,
having an
or-
adjective ascribes makes it seem maybe like it's part of a group or other or belongs to something.
It makes it feel like that it comes sort of attachment free, that it's like, oh, it's just it's just a casual thing.
Yeah,
it's not a something that you're dedicated to or something.
It stands in counterpoint. I don't like that word counterpoint, but it stands in opposition to marital sex.
Well,
if I understand.
committed relationship sex.
No,
I feel like it's marital.
No, I don't. I
No.
think Bo's kind of. It stands. Casual. You need the antonym to casual, and it's definitely not marital.
Professional
It's like
sex.
committed.
Committed. Yeah, it would be like committed or
casual-
dedicated. As
Casual
opposed to
sex-
Casual.
is like you go to the bar, you meet someone who looks good, and then you guys have sex, and then awkwardly someone leaves in the morning, and that you never see them again. Something like that is casual sex. Something along those lines. It comes certainly in other forms, but I think it's essentially minus the relationship. Like you might never have sex with that person again, and uh, along those lines. So what's wrong with it was your question,
Yeah,
Crofton? And
like
I
what's
think most people would say, well, nothing. There's nothing wrong with it, except, and here's where maybe there's something worth talking about, ex- except if it's not, maybe both people don't have the same idea about the casualness of it, right? Maybe someone's like, sweet, I got casual sex. And the other person maybe thought like, oh, I thought this was like going somewhere. And I feel like maybe that's the thing with casual sex is that it's primed for like miscommunication, perhaps.
Marriages
Or
already are notorious for being, people with marital problems, communication breaks down. So,
right,
yeah, like I can only imagine that it's a minefield having a casual relationship like that
certainly,
with
and
someone.
it's and also if you take into account maybe that if one of the participants in the casual sex um, maybe has insecurity issues and is sort of using casual sex to maybe make themselves feel good, and which may later lead to pain or regret. And I'm not saying that casual sex is like that. I'm just saying maybe that's a thing.
but that's again like we're talking about individual people's behaviors and how one person views it in one way and one person views it another way, and the pitfalls of miscommunication. I think Bo makes a good point that any relationship could potentially have miscommunication. So why are people like casual sex is something that some people are will be vehemently against or have a strong opinion of, like, so somebody, if somebody said to their mother, oh yeah, I was out and had casual sex last night, very rare would be the mother that was like, all right, up here, high five, good stuff. Mostly they would be uh disappointed or disgusted or whatever. And I think that we're seeing changing societal mores, and people see sex in a different way. But I do think that it still remains something that a lot of people have hangups with.
Well, I think the hang up, if I can offer my own interpretation of what that hang up might be in a broad generalization, would be that the act of, making love, of having sex, results in a child, if everything happens, biologically to plan, so to speak. That's the purpose of it. And I think that I think it's cool to look at something like that and for us to cherish it in tradition. And I think that when people take something and so easily just sort of use it like, oh, we just had casual sex, whatever, haha, let's walk around naked, let's have an orgy, that some people can feel like they're devaluing what makes that thing, that devaluing the thing that we cherish. I'm not saying that I endorse this view. I'm saying you can look at something like that and say that, well, if we just have sex with whoever, how does that make it really special? Like it doesn't, you don't need a license to go out and have sex with people. I think there's a certain aspect of treating it with dignity and respect and not just, giving yourself up to people. And I think people express that through disappointment by hearing like, oh, he's a philanderer, he has sex a lot, whatever.
You don't need a license. So what the hell did I pay that guy for?
You have a sex license?
God damn.
Sex license.
It says sexy time license.
Is what I'm saying make any sense at all? Like the fact
No,
that
it
it's
does.
of
It does.
value matters to some people, especially I would say religious people.
Yeah, but not just religious people. Also people who just have traditional views of um, relationships. You don't necessarily have to be religious to think of relationships in a certain way. I feel like it's also inherently hedonistic, and if your worldview is one in which you're like hedonism is sweet, like yeah, live for the day. It's all about what makes you feel good, baby. And if that's having sex with whoever you please, like that song, is it I'm trying to think of this like 80s band. Making love to whoever I please. You know, not like whatever.
What song is
Horrible
that?
It's an obscure song.
You know the song if you heard it. I can't
I like
sing.
how you
Anyways,
passed the ball
whatever.
to us and we completely
I
dropped
do-
it. I have no idea what he's
But
talking
it is
about.
like it's hedonistic, and I think that is in some people. Some people that kind of worldview really appeals to them of just like have fun, you know, do whatever, and other people. And it's almost the same with drugs. You'd be like, why are drugs bad? They make you feel good, whatever. And it'd be like, well, they might lead you to a path of disappointment or regret. And you could say maybe the same thing about casual sex. If you've spent, 30 years having casual sex with people, and then maybe you have not spent time engaging in developing longer lasting relationships, you might find your life hollow or empty. And again, I'm not saying casual sex leads to that, nor am I saying drug use leads to that. But that might be an argument about
Both
it.
those things. Another argument is both those things have or are the dangers around health and health risks have been brought up at different times. Casual sex, in particular, in the 80s with the HIV scare and all that sort of stuff, that was much more. It was much more prevalent, but still today, people will be very careful, both with regards to stuff like STDs and with regards to, especially for women who you choose to go home with, and especially when you may know nothing other than that you're physically attracted to one another at the bar, right? Like,
Yeah, you may end up in a casual relationship with motherfucking Gian Gomeshi. And,
Yeah.
like
or
get
or
yourself
worse.
punched in the face.
or worse. Like, there's a lot of missing and murdered women across the country that could have. I'm not saying that
that's
did disappear.
again to lay that at the feet of casual sex is
It's
kind
a risk.
of
It's a risk because you're either having casual sex with somebody you know very well, in which case I would argue the label of casual on that, because there's baggage, there's some sort of emotional baggage, or no matter what sort of arrangement you may have, or it's somebody you don't know, kind of like a stranger, and that's always going to come with risk. And I feel it is a fair thing to lay it there.
Okay.
Where different people can see things in different ways. I think there's always a percentage risk when you're going home with a stranger that person could be psycho.
Well,
Okay.
and not just that, also like as you mentioned, STDs and or pregnancy. Now, of course, there's things you can do to prevent those, condoms and various other prophylactics and or birth control methods, but none of these, or not many of these things, are 100% effective. So there's always a small risk, and the more often you would to engage in something like casual sex, the more you are putting yourself at that risk. If you have a condom break with someone, you know their sexual history, you've been with them, okay, that's one thing. If a condom breaks with someone you just met at the bar, you might be like, oh, what do I have? And that's scary. So certainly the risk is different there, because you don't have that trusting relationship. I agree with Croft, and you're exposing yourself to a greater degree of risk. It might not be, maybe it's overstated sometimes, but it's certainly greater than in a committed relationship.
But the thing that I'm kind of a little hung up on here is that, like, because to me, casual sex is non-marital sex, or at least non-common law, long-term committed relationship.
I disagree.
When you talk with friends with benefits, like, is that not still treating sex casually?
Yeah, it's more casual, but I would agree that that's more like a light relationship. Like when I think of casual sex, it's just sex. You don't have another form of relationship with them. Like I'd say there's a reason why there is a term called friends with benefits as opposed to casual sex. Why wouldn't you just say casual sex? Because that person's your friend. And then there are labels for these things, which like friends with benefits, which exist because to kind of mark those delineations in that kind of like where your sexual,
because those friends with benefits will set rules that they'll be like, we don't want to endanger our existing relationships, so like these are the rules or whatever.
Yeah, I understand what you guys are saying, and it makes sense to me. But you started off by saying, we talked about what what did you say about casual sex right in the beginning, Crofton? You said, what is it that makes it casual, right?
He said, "What does it makes it? Why? What's wrong with it?" Is what he
Right.
said.
What's wrong with it? And to me, the whole point of the term casual is a denigrating term for people or for the activity of having sex outside of marriage. Like I think we're in like
I disagree.
I also disagree. I think it has nothing to do with
that's
marriage.
like our modern understanding now. But I think the idea of casual sex wasn't invented this decade. It was the idea of it being a thing comes from decades past as casual sex as opposed to, appropriate sex, which is
I disagree. I think that if you're having sex with someone you're married with is pretty much the same as if you're having sex with someone who you're not married to but have been in a committed relationship with for a few years. To me, those things are identical.
I'm not saying your opinion's invalid. I'm saying the term itself in our culture comes from somewhere.
Right, but I think it's to treat it casually, and I would say
outside of a relationship. It's sex outside of a relationship. Friendship is a relationship. Dating is a relationship. Marriage is a relationship. These are all relationships. Casual sex is sex that happens outside of that. It's casual.
You're not speaking to someone who doesn't feel as you do. What I'm trying to underscore here is that we're a bit of an echo chamber. We all see things the same way. I'm saying that the view of casual sex, you might have your opinions on where the line for casual sex is drawn. And I'm saying I think there are other people out there who would draw that much higher than we are in this conversation. And that's like worthy of us looking at in the sense that if it's outside of a committed marriage under the eyes of God or whatever, religious things you have, it's casual.
Well, that's a pretty particular. I think it's a pretty narrow group of people that you're saying.
Religion is not narrow. There are so many religious people.
Look, you'd find all kinds of people who consider themselves religion, but put up with something like,
they're adulterers. Tons of religious people are hypocrites, and the fact that they would even call casual sex something negative is just them projecting their own security on it. Like, I don't need to know that. What I'm trying to underscore is that we have a culture and society that shits on casual sex.
Right, but I think
negative?
I think that we're well, isn't it why not just call it sex?
Well,
why
hold on.
The fact that it has an extra word on it kind of implies that it's
why call
negative.
it marital sex?
Yeah, hold on. I want to just, because the thing is, if you want to reframe it that way, it changes the conversation we have. Like, if what we're talking about is all sex aside from marital sex, I'd be like, okay, this is like, why are we even talking about it? And it's like, maybe you're right. Maybe some religious zealots are like, that's casual sex because you're not married. And sure, maybe you're right. But to have the conversation we're having today, I feel like it's important for the purposes of our discussion to be. I mean, again, and maybe you're very right to point out that this is our view of it, but I think it's sex that is just about sex. Like, you see someone, they look hot, or what's it called? Tinder. Isn't that like the dating site, which is basically
Tinder,
you have sex with people. Yeah. So you look at that person, they look good, you say you want to hook up or hang out, you go hang out, you have sex. That's casual sex. You don't know that person, you just want to have sex. And again, like, we're here to discuss whether that's good, bad, or bullshit. And is it bad? Like, I don't know. I mean, that's what we're talking about. But when you're including things like you've been with someone for 10 years and you're not married and you're having sex in that same thing as like Tinder hookups.
Well, I'm not saying I'm including it. I'm saying there are those who would include it.
For our discussion, it makes it much more difficult.
And I don't consider casual I think there's very common understanding about what modern North American casual sex is considered, and I think that the word casual is not in any way like a negative. I never saw it as a negative. Like, I'm going to dress casually today. It's, if anything, I look forward to days when I'm dressing casually. Like, a casual thing is just an adjective to define it.
The casual day in your clothing does imply that it's in a day where you're allowed to be below standard, right? And so being below standard is, framing things it's not negative.
It's not below standard. It's not.
There's a dress code. There is a standard. If you're going casual,
No,
That
I'm not
means
saying
you're
I'm going to
not
work.
reaching the standard.
I'm saying I'm dressing casually. Like if I go out and I dress casually, it's because that's how I choose to dress because it's the most
But
relaxed.
that's
I'm
what the
not saying
word
I'm
casual means. Like
No, I'm not
casual
saying I'm
is not just relaxed. Casual is
Hey,
not meeting a standard.
can
no,
I
it's casual is not meeting a standard. I don't know where you pulled that definition from, but I
okay,
disagree.
look,
Just think about it.
I just
I
Googled
did.
this I think we're getting hung up on like definitions here. This is the Wikipedia entry and it's pretty succinct. I'm just going to read it. Casual sex are certain types of sexual activity outside of romantic relationships that imply an absence of commitment, emotional attachment, or familiarity between sexual partners. Examples are sex in casual relationships, one-night stands, extramarital sex, prostitution, or swinging. And other terms related are like no strings attached sex, recreational sex, hooking up, things like that.
So
I
it's
feel like that's a pretty good definition of it.
But that includes a lot of what I was talking about, right? It isn't
Well, it
just
says
hook up at a bar.
absence of commitment or emotional attachment or familiarity. So that's very
But
different than what
yeah,
you're
it
talking about.
means
You were saying people that aren't
strangers,
married.
right?
Sorry?
It means strangers. Like it means people you don't know. You have no emotional
Pretty
attachment
much.
or relationship.
I mean, the fact that they include familiarity, like that's, I feel like when it came up with the topic, that's what we're talking about. You see someone, you're like, oh, let's do it. And it's just sex. It's not like, I like this person. I want to get to know them. And then, hey, it's also, let's include sex in our relationship. That's what's different about
See,
it.
the thing about casual sex is what it is it in my opinion is it's sex for sex's sake and it removes stuff like for the most part emotional intimacy or commitment to the other person and that sort of thing. It's not the top of a relationship or anything like that. It's just we're having sex because we want to just enjoy the act of sex. We're both attracted to each other. And the idea of casual sex is that it does not mean anything other than the act itself, right? We're not signing up for a longer relationship. We're not. It's not the capping of a long courtship or anything like that. It's all it is sex for sex's sake. And that's why when I opened this and said like why is that, like what are people's issues with that, it was because I don't really personally see anything wrong with that as long as you take the appropriate precautions.
Yeah, and I echo a lot of what you say. I don't think there's anything wrong with casual sex. I just feel like that, I feel like that there would be those who would, and I was sort of expressing that angle. But like, I'm ready to move on from
Oh,
that.
yeah.
If you
Well,
wanna
and lots of
try and
people,
answer it.
yeah. Personally, I agree with what Crofton's. I feel like, oh, should we just go to verdicts? But to to play the devil's advocate again, it's like the possibility that maybe there's it's not as equal footing as we often like to think it is. Like, so in theory, if you set it up like it's casual sex, two people meet, both very aware of the situation, both very clear about the casual nature of this encounter and wanting sex, and they discuss this, and then they go have sex and go about their ways, and they both feel really good about it and have no regrets. Awesome. Who would have a problem with that, really? Like, but I think the thing with casual sex is that it's not necessarily often like that. There might be someone who has a more predatory nature, and they may not be, let's face it, it's going to be mostly men who are in that more predatory. It may not be full on rapists or things like that, but maybe just very
Looking to put a
persuasive.
notch in their headboard.
Right, yeah, they see it as a kind of conquest. We all know that they're like frat boy types who are like this, and look, there are women who are like that too. But it's like if your goal is like I want to have a one night stand tonight, and you're looking for someone to have that with, maybe you happen upon someone who is insecure or is just had too much to drink and is not making good decisions, and someone else is there to take advantage of that vulnerability. And I think that maybe that's what the issue is with casual sex sometimes, is that you may have a more vulnerable party of the two people. As in the original thing I pointed out, where everything is super equal footing, absolutely no problem. But if someone's completely drunk, like how many times have you been drunk and like regretted the night before? I've not even been drunk much in my life.
Like
And
quite
Crofton,
a
I know
few
you don't drink.
times.
But and I've never had a one night stand, but I've regretted things I've done while I've drunk, and so I'm glad those haven't been me waking up next to someone being like, "Oh, what the hell did I do?" And but like if we talk about casual sex, I guarantee that has happened. Someone has gone to a bar, gotten super drunk, slept with someone, woke up and saying, "Oh God," and then gotten out of there and being like, "What did I do?" That happens sometimes. Like
Well,
let's hope
it
most people
has.
are at peace with it.
Yeah.
I think casual sex is messy, messier at least, and I agree with a lot of what Mike says. But I think when discussing a topic like this that is sort of value driven, you have to look at where you sort of stand personally, right? And so when I look at myself, I stand more. If I have to choose, types of sex, say you can only choose one, and one is like more of casual variety, and the other is more like a committed variety in a committed relationship. I'm going to choose the committed relationship one, 9 times out of 10. And while I don't begrudge those who engage in the casual sex, I definitely and I know that there's hangups associated with it. I know that there's risks associated with it. It is not like it is never been the one did me the most. And like I've been with my wife a long time, but when we first met, I was looking for someone to have a long-term committed relationship with. And sometimes navigating college, university with that mindset is difficult. You find yourself on the outside looking in while everybody else is having casual sex, right? So, and there's nothing wrong with that approach. It's just my values personally, and I'm not saying my values are better than the next person's or whatever. This is just what I believe. I find myself more on the side of the committed relationships as opposed to the casuals. And you don't have to take one without the other, but it makes me less enthused about just giving a ringing endorsement to casual sex than somebody like, say, maybe Bo would be.
Well,
Go ahead.
yeah,
No, you go,
my
Bo.
turn. So one of the things we did on the circumcision episode was we did some participation with each other by asking, if we were circumcised. And so I wanted to ask, although you're perfectly free to say, hey, I'm not going to kiss and tell, have you been in casual sex relationships or not? And I'm going to answer first, since I haven't had a chance to speak a little bit, and say, no, I think I haven't been married to everyone I slept with, and I've had quite a few, raunchy makeouts sessions while drunk, like with touchy-feely stuff happening and all that kind of stuff. But, everyone that I've had, like, legit sex with, legit is not the right word, everyone I've had, like, for realsy sex with, intercourse, we might say, I've had strong feelings for, and never intended for the relationship to just be like, oh, I'm going to have sex, and whatever happens tomorrow, I don't care. I'd personally kind of like to try it, but I tend to be a very impassioned person, and I just tend to have strong feelings for people that I'm involved with in my life. And so
You should get a Tinder account.
well, that's the thing. Everyone, like, I've been single for a little while now, and everyone's like, "Oh, get a Tinder account, meet people," and I'm kind of like, I'm disinterested in it. Like, I don't know. I'm not disinterested in sex, but I'm disinterested in meeting some rando, and having sex. Like, that sounds incredibly unappealing to me. I like the idea of feeling a strong amount of affection for the person.
So you're not into casual sex, is what it sounds like.
I don't think so. But I haven't really tried. I've also haven't tried, I don't know, Vegemite, but maybe, or I've tried Vegemite and didn't like it, but I think maybe I didn't really, I didn't really, like, give myself the full effort of trying it. I approach it with a negative attitude. So I don't think you can approach casual sex with a negative attitude and hope to get something positive out of it. So I'd want to approach it with the right attitude. I'd like to try it. But I haven't had casual sex, so I'm turning the floor over to you both for answering the question.
Just an aside about Tinder, real quick, because I have a couple of friends that have been quite active on Tinder.
Are you gonna air their stories?
Really?
No, I'm not going to air their stories. But but I will say that while it may have started as a hookup thing, it's now, and it feels like this is what happens with a lot of these things. It starts like that, and then now it's a relationship thing. Now it's like this person met her last two boyfriends over Tinder, and this guy, like, it's much less used for, at least around here anyway. I don't know if
It
that's
seems
ever.
like a bad way to meet potential
I
mates.
know it's super. It's
Like-
I have opinions, but anyway, that's
Like
aside.
you have, anyways. Yeah, you have
Okay.
zero.
So just to answer your question, Bo, I have also not had casual sex, and while I wouldn't be a, like, if, look, I'm holding up my hands with my wedding ring on, like, on the but well, if I was not in a committed marriage and something like that, I wouldn't be morally opposed to having casual sex. It just wouldn't be something that I would necessarily be looking for, I guess. Though you never know. You never know where you are in life, right?
Yeah.
So
So, okay, I've not had, I don't think what I would just define as casual sex, but I have had, to put the term casual in there, what I thought were casual relationships, okay, where I would be like, there was a possibility of some relationship, and I thought like, okay, kind of, this person seems okay, maybe we'll just date. And in my head, I had been like, this is gonna go for a couple of months, and then that's it. Okay, so I had a casual attitude towards the relationship, and that did not end well, because as with things
feel
casual,
bad.
and it's like maybe if I had the conversation up front, or had been more clear that I was, I mean, more casual. But the point is that it wasn't on equal footing. Other people have different expectations, maybe, and I think that it's a possibility that you might not anticipate. To be like, I feel really comfortable in this situation, and whatever, it's casual for me. But unless it's explicitly clear with the other person, it may not be as casual for them, or they might hope something comes of it, and then it doesn't. So there's some sense of disappointment. It's just those things are possible when you have casual, because there are often feelings and emotions that go along with sex, and I think it's hard to like put them completely aside, and some people can, but I don't know, I think it's difficult. I like
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, I like people, I don't, if people were objects, that you could just have, like, and as we always talk about objectification, I think if you're engaging in casual sex, you're treating the other person as an object, or each other as objects. And that's okay if you're really good with that. But when I think about people, like, I like to know, like, well, how are you feeling? What do you think about this? Knowing people's, I like that aspect of people.
Yeah.
I don't want just their bodies. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like when you boil sex down to a purely casual thing, you've taken the person out, and you just, what you want is their body. And maybe you want your body to be used by them. And that's, again, I would agree with Crofton in the sense that, like, I don't personally have moral or objections to somebody being into that. But me personally, I'd have sort of trouble doing it, because there always are emotions and feelings and things.
It's the emotions and feelings that are what, because on paper it sounds like a brilliant idea, but the thing is, I recognize that myself as a person, I think I know what I want. I don't know what I want, so I get into things sort of half figured out, because it feels good. It feels good. You meet somebody, and just even cuddling with them makes you feel good. It doesn't even have to be sex. It can just be the affection of another human being. It doesn't matter what type of sexual relationship it is, man, woman, woman, man or woman, whatever. Whatever that relation, that connection and intimacy you do get from being close. And I don't, like, I wish I could cite a study, and I can't, but I know I've heard.
let's invent one right now.
No, but I feel like I've heard, anecdotally, that, if you're having casual relationship with a stranger, that time still spent, like, your brain does program itself to become more attached to the people that you're having sex with. Like that, unless you have some sort of brain developmental problem, it's human nature to become intimate and closely attached to someone that you spend affection time with.
I know it's not a study, but I have heard that what is it, the hormone or hormone oxytocin? Is that it? It's like the attachment hormone. They call it the love hormone.
Yeah,
And
like, don't you know
and
more clearly already?
when
But
you have sex with people, I think I think like, I may be wrong about this, but I think this oxytocin is something that's released. So you may develop feelings of attachment, and maybe different people, you might not expect to be into someone, but then you have sex with them, and then you have this feelings of like, I like this person now. I just had sex, I like them, and the other person's like, oh yeah, chalk another one up. I'm out of here, and now you feel hurt. You weren't expecting to get hurt, but then maybe you like that person, and then they didn't really want to see you again. They just wanted to have the sex. It's a possibility with casual sex. I can give a verdict. I don't know about you guys. I feel like I could
Yeah,
say.
I think I'm pretty ready.
I feel like I want to talk more about sex. I really like the topic of sex.
I think you need a
incidentally.
Tinder account.
Yeah, make a Tinder account.
Do you guys
And
want to make
also-
a Tinder account for me? I'm not. I can't
No, I'm
do
not
it.
going to make a Tinder account for you. But I would say that this actually,
I'll swipe left on you, Bo.
once I read that Wikipedia entry that defined this, it included prostitution, and we've done this on this show. And during that show, we talked about Crofton thought about like if it was his daughter who became a prostitute, and now he has a daughter, and if his daughter was like, Dad, lately there's this sweet biker bar. I like a lot of older guys. They're all into casual sex, and so am I. And it's been pretty awesome the last few years of just casual sex. How does that make you feel as a father?
The worst part about you saying that is that there's some legitimate. You're not just asking to be a dick, because there is some like percentage chance that any human being becomes that way, and it's Crofton's responsibility as a parent to maybe try and guide her in the direction that he envisions for her in life.
Well,
but he
and-
can
and-
only control so much because she is an autonomous person. So
Well, I'll turn the floor over to Crofton.
yeah,
I like how you nonchalantly found a way to call my daughter a whore, you son of a bitch.
yeah. And you call me friend number 7, and he's friend number 1.
Oh my god.
I'd never call your daughter that.
All right, are we doing verdicts? Let's just do verdicts.
Oh, you're skipping the whole thing. Oh, well,
You're not going to
okay.
respond to his jab?
What was,
No, but what I was-
he's insulting me, and
I'm not insulting you, but my kind of point was that when you talked about prostitution, you thought about the idea as if your daughter became a prostitute. And again, casual sex, and I think we've all sort of said, and I would agree with this, in theory, it sounds awesome. Like, in theory. And in the same way that it's kind of like other people doing it, if they're all cool with it, sounds great. But then you might put someone that you really love, like your daughter or your son, and you put them in a position of them being really into casual sex, and it might just... You feel like, do you want more? I don't know. It might change the way you view it once there's someone that you care about. You care about their well-being. You care about how their life unfolds. But if it's someone you don't care about, maybe you're just like, do whatever you want.
And you wonder how much of that is ingrained moralizing from years of sort of tradition, but I feel a large part of it is that you want what do you want for your son or daughter is you want them to be protected, and you want them to be in a situation with somebody who loves them and loves them back, and I think you have an idea of what a healthy relationship is, even if you see one. And casual sex, and Bo used the term casual relationship a lot. And I guess there is a relationship formed after casual sex, but I think the whole casual sex thing is that there is no relationship there. And I think that's not something you generally desire to see for say your kids or anything when they're growing up. You hope that they're going to find somebody that makes them feel great about themselves on a day-to-day basis and that sort of thing. That's what you're looking for. So in that context that you've brought up, it feels like a negative, I guess.
Well, and it's interesting because if you think about it in context of your children, because if I think about my son, like I would prefer if he wasn't into casual sex. I mean, I would not be judgmental of something he chose
I
for
think
himself.
you would really
suppose.
want him to treat women with respect. Knowing
Well, I
you, that
certainly
would
do,
be
and
something you'd really want to see from
But
him.
you can and be into casual sex.
Well, and
Just look
yeah,
at James Bond. No, I'm just kidding.
can't.
Don't look at
I mean,
James Bond.
that's another issue, but I do have concerns about like, I really hope my son becomes a respectful man and not some douchebag. but the point, if I just think about him, and I think that when you talk about your children, there's a protective instinct that comes in, and I think that kind of like goes back to the fact that there is risks associated with casual sex, whether they be physical risks for STDs or unwanted pregnancies, but also emotional risks. And those, when it's your children, are things that you really care about. If my son was into casual sex, I'd just be like, be sure you're in the right place when you're doing this. If it's really you're all good with this, and also be sure you're not hurting other people, because you might not like that at some point. But when you introduce the idea of it being your children, it makes you think about like this protective element, and then it becomes to me a little bit more clear that there are risks with casual.
I think you're rolling into a verdict train here. So I think if a train could come out indicating that we're in that
Yeah.
section, that would allow you to wait. Is that it?
Perhaps
that sounds like the right.
What's all that noise?
Animals.
So no order.
Order in the court.
Order in the cart.
Order, I say.
So Michael, why don't you just roll along? You're right at the end there.
Okay, yeah. So just to follow up on what I was saying, or okay, for a verdict, I'm going to make it a little bit more clear in what my view is. Yeah, I earlier in the show, I kind of outlined this like ideal circumstances of casual sex, and I think that if all those things are met, both people are in really good places emotionally, really understand what they're getting into. There aren't other factors like being totally inebriated or under the influence of some drug or something. You're really in your right mind, and you want to have the casual sex. Great, I had no problem with that. In that case, if that was how all casual sex relationships, I'd be like, good, no problem. If all casual sex was someone who is predatory taking advantage of someone else who has insecurity or vulnerability issues for one night stands, then I'd be like, well, casual sex is bad if that's how it all happened. I think the truth is it probably happens in all kinds of ways, and that's why I'm going to land on bullshit as my verdict. I'd just be like, to listeners, casual sex, just be safe, protect your emotions too, not just your body. That's my public service message.
All right, I can go next. I feel like I've said a lot of what I had to say throughout the episode. I think all sex is a great thing. So whether or not we're calling it casual, marital, I don't know, whatever sort of adjective.
Anal.
Yes, even anal sex. I think all of that is great stuff. I think Mike and Crofton, you both made a lot of good points in the episode, particularly about protecting yourself both physically and emotionally. There are health implications to having sex, as well as, emotional damage that can occur in heartache. And so I think that, it's kind of like, very small percentage of us actually try becoming like an acrobat and do it really well. And I feel sometimes like sex is like kind of like acrobatics, except that, everyone can do it and everyone tries to do it and they're biologically compelled to do it. But I feel like there's a lot, we're kind of like old men, like was like, oh, take lots of precautions before you have sex. In terms of, don't get your emotions hurt and use a condom and don't have babies, and don't, and it's just like sex doesn't work that way. Sex is like, oh, I want to have sex. Your body just wants to have sex. So it's a very, very difficult thing. That being said, I don't like the idea of calling, casual sex negative in any way, shape, or form. I think it's perfectly fine for two consenting adults to make it a love. But, be prepared for the consequences. Use protection. Let's not, have an unwanted child in the world. That does nobody any favors, including that child, to have to live a life of feeling unwanted. So think about the things that you're doing before you do them and use your brains. But I'm not going to call something bad just because there's idiots out there who would, have sex and bring children into the world irresponsibly. That being said, the verdict of casual sex for Bo is good. And I was hamming it up at a bit at the end there. Sorry, dear listeners, if you can't see the video, it's because Crofton and Mike, I could see the impatience growing on their faces, and it was funny.
Yeah, it's good you said good, because I feel that that's true to yourself. And had you said anything else, I feel like that wouldn't have been true. I know you well enough that I think that that's what you believe. For me, I was when we started the show and I asked that question about what the hell is wrong with it, it seemed like a kind of easy good in terms of a topic, and I was pretty not married to my opinion, but I was thinking that it was going to be a good thing. And while I agreed with a lot of both of what both of you guys said, Bo, when he was talking about sex being good in general, and I do agree with that. And putting these little classifications on things is what we do as humans. And there's a reason we spend so much time arguing what casual means. It's because it really makes a big difference in determining the nature of the sex. And it's not that it's negative necessarily in its connotation, but it is definitely it does show a lack of commitment to the other person, and that comes, as Mike pointed out, with lots of dangers. It's messy. Honestly, casual sex is messy, and it can be a beautiful mess. I'm sure there's some people that are really. It could lead to great relationships. It could lead to just great one-night encounters, but it could lead to horrible situations as well. So because of the messiness, it's really hard to give it a definitive good or a definitive bad. And so I'm gonna sort of do what like Mike did and say that for me, casual sex is bullshit.
That creepy boy in American Beauty who takes pictures of the bag might say that, the beautiful mess is, is the American beauty. Is the reason to live.
Is that why you were guffawing? I thought it was going to be a dirty thing.
I thought it was.
I'm leaving that alone.
I'm sure it is often like that. I just don't like the idea of people getting hurt.
Yeah.
Emotionally, physically. STD. I don't know.
We want you to have safe, casual sex, but
Well,
dear listeners, don't have irresponsible sex. It'll hurt you.
I like Bo's mixed messaging because Bo's like, we sound like old men, and we should be saying like, oh, don't do this and be safe, but you should be safe and wear a condom because you don't want extra kids in the world. But sometimes a man and a woman, they just need to make sweet love together, but do it safely. And I don't want to sound stuck up about this, but sex is so good, like it was pretty funny to watch. I was enjoying. It was like two sides of Bo just like fighting it out to try and determine, was it his animal nature or was it his intellectual nature?
All right,
that was going to
I'm
win.
revising it. Just go out and fuck everyone.
there
you go.
The animal wins.
Well, it's good he said good because, as I think has been pointed out before, he did say prostitution was good. So, if you were like if he said casual sex was bullshit or bad and prostitution was good, to be like, come on, Bo, So he was true to himself. Bo the man loves sex. He loves people making love. He's like Barry White. He's like today's Barry White.
It's true.
Everybody get to making love. I don't know any Barry White songs.
I don't know any. I only know.
All right. Well, to wrap this crazy train.
Wrap up your pecker. Sorry, I know.
To drive this crazy train into the station. No, he's not. If you enjoyed this episode, you want to listen to more episodes like this, we would love it if you do. Please visit goodbadbull.com. That's our website. You can find all our stuff there. But you can follow us on Twitter as well, at goodbadbull. Like us on Facebook. Again, Good Bad Bull, that's the magic word. And especially subscribe to us on iTunes. You can give us a user review. I think there's only one option. It's 5 stars. I've tried giving us another, like a lower star review, but it seems to want to autofill the rest of the stars because it knows how good we are. So you might want to just save yourself some time and just do the 5-star right away.
I feel like most people hit cancel or something.
Thank you,
That's
Michael.
the power of positive thinking with Michael Hodgins.
You can stream us on.
I think our listeners should give us 5 stars, but I don't want to coerce them.
You can stream us on
do that by encouraging them.
And you can follow us individually in different ways. Some easy, some hard. Like, let's try Bo, for instance. Bo, if the listeners and users and abusers at home want to follow you, how would they go about doing that?
You can follow
Tinder. They look for him on Tinder for some sweet love making.
You can find me on
No
Tinder.
strings attached,
It's these two hobos and not me making the account. That being said, if you're an attractive lady, I would still consider.
He's single, ladies.
I'd give it some consideration. But in all seriousness, you can find me at Bo Schwartz. You can find me also at the !podcast, exmpodcast.com. And if you enjoy the show, consider supporting us at patreon.com/goodbadbull.
We'd appreciate your support. We definitely would. And Mike, if people want to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
They can find me unresponsive down at the bar because, I'm not looking for a casual one-night stand.
So you just get straight licked.
Yeah, I just get drunk. No, I don't.
No, the way you made that sound was like,
drinks.
I'm unresponsive because I'm passed
Yeah,
out in
people
the
like,
bar.
hey,
And you're like,
how's it going? And I'll be like, could be better. And then they leave.
no, that's perfect.
why I never
That's
had guys.
perfect. Isn't that the game? You ever heard of that pickup artist sort of technique is to go and to shit on a woman, like just to be like,
See, look, that
someone's
stuff
like,
annoys me.
fuck
The
man,
whole
you're
game-
super unattractive. Ugh, get out of here. And then it's like, now you've got them on the hook because you insulted them.
The game aspect of relationships irritates me too. We didn't get it. Maybe that's part of like I was saying, like, the predatory one night stand dude. That's not me. So you won't find me at many bars. You'll find me at like the playground with my small child, wondering if he'll become a casual sex practitioner.
This is what Mike thinks about at the playground. And you can follow me on Twitter at Crofton Steers. And that wraps up another one. I feel like we're at the point now where we can start classifying our episodes. So we've got our like religion pile.
Sweet.
Our
It was
relationship,
sweet.
sweet.
And we got like maybe our sex pile. Like we had like
sex pile.
we did romance, we did prostitution, we do casual
Marriage, I think.
sex,
We did
marriage. Like we could stick that. Maybe it's relationships
We did weddings as well, I think, didn't we?
or
Well,
divorce.
I said marriage. Isn't
maybe?
it? Oh yeah, weddings.
We did
as the
specifically
event.
weddings, yeah.
Yeah, I'd put that in there.
So yeah, okay, so you got your like relationship pile and that, and then you got your whatever flip flops is in pile. It would be in the same category as tattoos, maybe personal expression. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Casual sex, perhaps.
No, I'm not saying casual sex. I'm saying my other pile. That's casual sex is in my sex pile. I got my sex pile. I got my religion pile, and then I got my like personal expression pile.
I think there's more than that. There's like there's like
We have like our
social,
science
political.
fiction pile.
There's environmental pile. I put oil pipelines, recycling, pesticides, all that shit into one pile.
Yeah.
We should, yeah. One day we'll just record an episode where we make piles.
I feel like it's a better word than piles.
Suck my piles, Podges.
Piles. It sounds like some kind of disease old people get.
I don't know.
Piles are
Piles
bottles.
is an affliction.
What about buckets? Columns? I don't care.
Buckets.
Columns. Assortment. No.
Sweets. There is a word. It's a
Yeah,
sweet.
it's called sweet, but yeah.
Stop trying to
Probably.
classify my life, Hodges.
That's what we do in this show.
Hey,
Classify. I rate your life as bullshit. Neither good
He
nor
insults my infant daughter and then he insults my
call
life.
her life
114 episodes in, and now we've got the first verdict against co-host. Like, we haven't actually aimed that weapon at one another.
Let's just
Actually,
say
now.
we've refrained from your life, Bo.
You have not. You just haven't given it a verdict.